Welcome back, my name's Steve and thank you for joining me on my photography journey today. As you can see, I've changed my office around a little bit. I'll give you a bit more information about that in a week to come, so get subscribed to see that. But today I want to talk about something that's on the back of, as far as I know, all Nikon mirrorless cameras. And that is this I button. What does it do? You might have seen it there, you might have used it, but what does it actually do and when does it come in useful? That's what we're going to look at today. So when you press the I button, you've either got the physical I button or there's one on the touchscreen on the back as well. It will bring up across the bottom a number of different options that you can choose. And you can also customize these, so you've got exactly what you want, just a button away. So whether it's to change your focus mode, whether it's to change your metering mode, anything like that, you can customize this I menu and have it work exactly how you want it so that you have easy access to all of the controls that you frequently use. So how do you customize it? Well, you go into your menu, then you go to your customization and then into your controls, and then the top one here is customize the I menu. Once you're into this menu, you can click on any of those buttons across the bottom and select what it does. And the great thing is that you can set it up for each of the user modes that you've got, plus all of the different things that you want between photo and video. So you've got lots of different options for customizing this to make it as useful for you as you want it to be. So what I'll do now is talk about the ones that I've got set up on mine, and then we'll look at all the different options that you can have to customize it as much as you want to. So when I'm in photo mode, the first thing that I've got there is my white balance. Generally, I have this set to a value in Kelvin so that I know it's always constant. But this is where I can change that. So press I on the back of your camera. That brings up the menu. Click on this first button, which for me is the letter K, showing that I've got it set to Kelvin. And then from there, you can adjust your color temperature or your white balance settings using the arrows on the screen, using the touch control on the back, and choose whichever one you want. If the option that you want to choose has got more sub options, you can press down on the keypad and that will take you in order to look at those sub options and make changes there. You can press the I button to go back, takes you back to the I menu. Next up, I have got metering mode. And this is how you choose where in the frame is taken into account by the camera in order to get that exposure information and give you that plot on the graph at the side. So in here, you can again choose between matrix metering, center weighted metering, spot metering, and highlight weighted metering. You can make your selection, press the OK button, and that saves it into your camera for you. Again, pressing the I button takes you back to that menu. Next up for me, I've got auto bracketing. I use this sometimes when I want to take multiple exposures of a particular image in order to get details in the highlights, details in the shadows, and create an HDR merge of 3 images usually, and get the best of all those different images. So in here, I would select auto exposure. I would choose number of shots being 3 and an increment of say 1. And that gives me one stop of change between those 3 images. So I'll have one that's a bit underexposed, one that's a bit overexposed, and one in the center that I've got exposed how I want it to be. Then afterwards in Lightroom, I can merge all of those together into a single picture. I like doing that when there's a particularly contrasty view, so you've got some really dark areas and some really light areas, and having it in my I menu means that it is just a couple of buttons away rather than actually having to dive into the menus to find it. Next up for me is exposure compensation. This isn't one that I particularly use, but it can be useful in combination with some other settings. So I have it there just in case I need it, but it's not one that I particularly use. What you can do with it is adjust how the camera sees the exposure. So if you want to have things a bit darker, you can set it that way. If you want to have things a bit lighter, you can set it that way. And then the metering in the camera will adjust accordingly. Release mode. I find that this is quite useful to have in here. You can have single frame release, you can have low and high burst modes. And the other thing in here is your timer. So whether you're setting it for, let's see what our options are. So if you go into here, press down, and then you've got your self-timer delay. So you've got 2, 5, 10, 20 seconds, and then the number of shots that it will take after that. So that can be quite useful. The next one I have on there is our AF mode. So this is where you choose single point, dynamic area, wide, large, that kind of thing. And I have that on one button, and then the one immediately below that is my autofocus continuous, autofocus single, or very much unused manual focus. So again, I have my focusing modes nice and easy to get to, and they are kind of a button away and next to each other. So the next one is one that I use quite often, particularly when I'm using a longer lens and I want to zoom in that little bit extra, and that's your image area mode. So you can choose between an FX full frame picture or a DX crop. Obviously this is a full frame camera, so it gives me that option. If it was a DX camera, you could choose a 1:1 ratio or a 16:9 ratio as well, depending if you wanted a different image area. But the main thing I use on here is switching between an FX crop and a DX crop if I want to just zoom in that extra kind of 1.5 times that DX crop gives me. And that's not something that I use all the time, and it's not something that I would want to permanently set. There was a time when I accidentally left it set and I took lots of pictures in a day on that crop, but I think I managed to recover from that. But go back and have a look at that if you're interested. And because I don't want to have it changed all the time, having it in the eye menu and just being a button away makes a big difference in how I can use it, and hopefully remembering to switch back when I need to. Next up is my ISO. This one I don't particularly use in here. I am more in favor of pressing the ISO button on the top of the camera and twisting the dial in order to set my ISO, but it's there in the eye menu if I want it to be. You can use both of them, you can use one then the other, it makes no difference. Next up in the eye menu I have my interval timer shooting. This isn't something that I use that often, but I can never find it in the actual menu system, so I put it in there so that it's nice and easy to find. So if I want to take a time lapse of sun moving across the sky, something like that, that's where I would take that. So that is your interval timer shooting menu. Next up for me, I've got silent mode. So silent mode is whether your camera will make a noise or not. This is quite useful when you're taking pictures of something in the quiet and you don't want to disturb people around you, or you just don't want to have that clicking of your shutter going all the time. And that option is there for me. And then the next one is the delay mode. So when I'm taking a longer exposure, what I might want to do is set a short delay on there so that when I press the shutter button and the camera moves slightly, if it's on a tripod, I don't want that movement to cause blurring in that long exposure picture. So setting a delay of say a second or something like that means that when turn that on, press the shutter button, a second after you've depressed that shutter button, that's when the picture will actually be taken. So it stops any movement in that image caused by you pressing the shutter button. And that's how I've got mine set up. Obviously, those won't be the ones that are useful for everybody. So let's have a look at how we can customize it and what the different options are. So like I said, into your menu, into your custom settings, and then controls. And then in there on the Z5, it's F1, it's the eye menu. And then on the screen, you've got all of your buttons laid out. If you press OK to go into one of them, and then that gives you all of your different options. So let's just run through the options that you've got here. Choose image area, image quality, image size, view memory card information, exposure compensation, ISO sensitivity settings, white balance, set picture control, color space, active D lighting, long exposure noise reduction, high ISO noise reduction, metering, flash mode, flash compensation, group flash options, focus mode, AF area mode, vibration reduction, auto bracketing, multiple exposure, HDR, high dynamic range, interval timer shooting, time-lapse movie, focus shift shooting, silent photography, release mode, custom controls, exposure delay mode, shutter type, apply settings to live view, peaking highlights, monitor viewfinder brightness, Bluetooth connection, Wi-Fi connection, and wireless remote connection. So lots of different options. And you've got the same options for all of those 12 buttons. So that's a lot of buttons. And like me, you'll probably find that you don't need all 12 of them. There's things in mine like the exposure compensation that I just don't use that often, but I had a button, so I wanted to put something that might be vaguely useful in there. So how do you use them? How have you got your camera set up? Is there something that would be really useful to put in there? Because you've got your custom controls, so pressing a button, turning a dial, pressing and holding a button. These are the physical controls that you can make your camera personalized to you and make the controls that you have as easy as possible. So you've got all those buttons. So you've got the 1 and 2 on the front. You can customize some of the ones on the back. But then you've got these extra 12 items in the I menu, which are just a button press away. So what do you use them for? Have I missed out on something that would be really useful? Let me know down in the comments. So I hope that was useful to you. I hope you'll use that going forward. But thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next time on my photography journey.